Hello, hello. How is everyone? Today is Saturday, December the 5th, and this is Talk to Ruth Live. We are going to be discussing the blame game today. So I will wait a few minutes and see if anybody pops in. I know it is a Saturday night and people are busy. We are right up here on the holidays. And people are doing all kinds of things. So I spent most of the day decorating my house, getting up my tree and all that kind of stuff as well. So I definitely understand. Hey, V Mac, how are you, Burns? Good to see you. Good to see you. I thought you were doing you were on House of Entertainment tonight. I thought you were doing something. I thought I saw on Instagram. I appreciate you being here for sure. I'm just going to talk tonight about the blame game. I wanted to try to come up with something that was actually a game that I thought would be kind of fun to do, but I couldn't really come up with anything to make it fun. So I said, well, we'll just talk about the blame game tonight and blame and all that kind of stuff. So, hey, Natural Way of Cody, how are you? Blessings to you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, Levi Boyd, how are you doing? Good to see you. Welcome in. Welcome in. Just going to give it a few minutes, see if a few more people come in tonight. We're going to be talking about the blame game. All this week, I have been talking about, who's at fault and where is the love, right? And where is the love? Those were the two things that I had this week coming out. And really, these lessons were kind of brought up from me moving around on YouTube and seeing different people. Hey, Minister of Music, Terrence Trower, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. It kind of came up from me moving around on YouTube and, seeing different people fall out with each other or just talk about people that they've fallen out with. And, it's the holiday season, and a lot of times this is the time of the year where you have to, get around family, get around people that you typically may not see all the time, sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally. And it can bring up, some unresolved things that you've had throughout the year, some issues you've had throughout the year. And, people get in the holidays and, want to be lovey-dovey, and, you may not be feeling that way because you have some, things going on, some issues, some unresolved issues in your mind that you are, wanting to address, and you don't feel like being, all lovey-dovey or act like nothing's going on when there is. Maybe you're feeling a certain kind of way about something, or someone else is feeling a certain kind of way about something. And when you get into each other's space, especially during this time of year, you feel that sort of tension or that sort of discord between you. And so that's kind of why I wanted to, that address the things that I've addressed this week for those unresolved issues, for those issues of conflict. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. Okay. So that's where this whole thing kind of stirred up from. So I wanted to do something fun, but I couldn't think of anything. So we'll be just talking about some stuff tonight, some different things we can do to resolve issues and stuff like that. And if y'all have any issues, this is Talk to Ruth night. So you all are welcome to talk to me. Talk to me about anything you all have going on. Anything that you're dealing with or struggling with, and we can talk it out. We can talk it out tonight. So this is not just about me talking, but I will talk. If you want to come up, you can. If you just want to put something in the chat, you can do that as well. Okay. So tonight we'll be looking at what we often call the blame game, right? The blame game. This is where we fall out with a person and we're not speaking for an extended period of time. But the reason is that we feel that the other person is the one who is the issue, right? They're the ones who needs to make a change. They're the ones that need to, apologize or admit that they're wrong or do something, right? We don't feel like it's our fault that we're not talking, or that we've fallen out, or that we're having these issues. We feel like it's the other person. But and really, when we look in the Bible, when at the original sin, right, Adam and Eve, blame has gone on for many, many years, right? People have been blaming each other for since the very first two people on the earth went about blaming each other. Hello, Vernell Livingston. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about blame tonight, so welcome in. And with that original sin, right? Eve blamed the serpent, right? Because she says, well, the serpent told me this and I ate. And then Adam blamed Eve, right? And then Adam also turned around and blamed God. First, he blamed Eve and said, well, she gave it to me and that's why I ate it. And then he turned around and said, well, you gave me her. So maybe this is really your fault, right? Adam tried to play the whole, I'm fully innocent, like I didn't do anything here. You gave me this woman, and, this woman gave me this fruit that I wasn't supposed to eat. And I should be innocent, right? I should not be held accountable. But we all know that did not go over well, and it did not take away any amount of punishment that they had to endure. So, and we still endure. So, so we know that blame does not get us anywhere. Blame doesn't get us anywhere. So we have to look at, if we're not going to blame anybody, then here's what blame is. For me, blame means to begin looking at my excuse, right? Begin looking at my excuse, because we quickly want to blame the other person and say, well, hey, it's their fault. They're the ones that, said this out of the way to me, or they're the ones that, treated me this way, or, whatever the situation is, you fill in the blank. And so, but we can't blame that person. Either way, the relationship is suffering, right? Either we're not talking, we're not getting along, we're not even able to reside in the same space together for any extended period of time, whatever it is, we blame the other person. Vernell says, no one in a story, I said, play the blame game, because God told Adam, he does every fruit but the apple. And he did not, right? He could eat every fruit but the apple, but he did not listen. And there is where the disobedience started. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that disobedience that's exactly where that disobedience started, right? Was him looking for an excuse to blame the other person. And it caused him to be disobedient. Absolutely. So when we know that did not go over well, right, for Adam and Eve, and it's probably not going to go over well for us, right? So when we leave this earth and God calls us home, and we have to stand before him and account for the things that we did and didn't do, we can't say, well, God, it was this person and that person, because we're going to be standing there alone by ourselves. There's not going to be anyone there but us and God, or, you and God. And we're going to have to speak for ourselves. And I don't think he's going to accept our excuses and our attempts at blaming, somebody else for the things that he told us to do. Because at the end of the day, when we read the word, when we are listening and praying and talking with God, he's talking directly to us, right? He doesn't necessarily say, he's talking directly to us. He's given us what we need and what he wants us to know individually. And we're the ones that are individually held accountable for what he tells us. So when he tells us to do something, despite anything going on around us, we're supposed to be obedient and doing those things. He doesn't say, well, as long as this happens, then you go ahead and do this. Or he doesn't say, well, if A and B is in line, then you have my permission to do this. No, he says, go forth and do what I've told you to do, right? Go do what it is. And now we might be looking at it and say, well, how is that going to work? Because this is happening and that's happening. We may question, why it is, because it doesn't look right to us, or it doesn't look how we want it how we would want it to be. Maybe the circumstances are not ideal for us to do what we want to do, but we have to. But we're still called, regardless, to do what we're supposed to do and to be obedient and trust that He will work out all those minor kinks and details. So when we are thinking about the blame game, the blame for me is I begin looking at my excuse. So when I'm having it out with someone or at odds with someone, and we haven't talked for a while, or it could be even recently. It could be that we've had a issue right up front. Then I have to. These are what I do is I look at me, begin looking at my excuse. I have to get honest with myself. I have to say what it is that I'm really dealing with. What is the heart of the issue? What's the heart of the matter, right? So I have to get honest about a lot of things. Sometimes it is my fault. Sometimes it is a situation that I just don't like. Sometimes it's just something that I don't want to do. Sometimes it's something I just don't want to address. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like going down that road, with the person or whatever it is. So that's number one, right? I have to get honest with myself. Then I have to hold myself accountable. If I know that I have to think about what role did I play in this? Because when we are in a relationship, whether it's a work relationship or a personal relationship, whatever kind of relationship it is, it involves two people. And if there's conflict, then that means two people are involved in the reason as to why there's conflict. So obviously, if one person is upset, it's probably something that the other person did, and maybe it was something they did intentionally or maybe not so intentionally. But either way, it involves two people. Yes, own up to your responsibilities, repent. That's the only way that God will blot out our wrongness. Yes, so we are to acknowledge what we've done and repent for what we've done and make every attempt, honest attempt to turn and do right. So that's what that accountability is for me. What am I truly frustrated about? What am I angry about? What am I, being resentful about? Those are the things. And what can I do on my end to try to bring peace to the situation? Because there's typically always something that we can do. Now, we may not want to do it. We may feel that it's not our responsibility or we shouldn't have to do it, but there is always something that we can do. The next part, so that's the accountability. And then the M for me in that game is make a move. So this is where I have to sometimes, bite your tongue. You have to buckle down and do what needs to be done. You have to be the first to say something when you don't want to be the first. You have to, make a move when you don't really want to. Maybe you feel they won't appreciate it, or they may not even want to accept it, right? Sometimes we go to people, we apologize, and they don't even accept what we say. And that may happen too, but that can't stop us from doing what we're supposed to do. It can't stop us from doing what we're called to do. If we're supposed to apologize, if we're supposed to own up to something that we've done, then we have to go do that, because it's not about looking for always acceptance from that other person. We have a Heavenly Father that we have to please. We have a Heavenly Father that we are held accountable to, regardless of what the other person is doing or not doing. So we have to remember that He's always watching. He's always holding us accountable for our actions. And therefore we have to do what we're supposed to do. So we have to make the move. We have to make the move, whether we want to or not, no matter how we feel about it. Do what's in our within our power to do. And the next one, the E for me, is that example, lead by example. So we may feel like, if we do this, it's not going to make a difference. But actually, and this is kind of where I got that. If you listened to my lesson on Thursday about the car, and the person was driving, and one person caused the accident, and the other person was, obviously didn't. Now, if you typically it's typical that, when the accident happens, we're both trying to figure out who's to blame. Was somebody not paying attention, or who wasn't paying attention, who caused the accident, right? And if you were the person that caused the accident, then a lot of times you're trying to look for ways as to how you didn't, because no one wants to take responsibility for the accident. However, if you are found not at fault and you were driving well, you were doing what you were supposed to do. Everyone who's driving well on the road is typically the ones who makes other people drive well. So for instance, if I'm driving bad, right? If I'm drunk, or if I'm, in my phone, putting on makeup, doing whatever, and I'm not driving well, right? I'm all over the road, I'm, swerving, whatever, then obviously that's going to make other people around me have to do differently as well, because they're watching out for me. They're not knowing what I'm going to do. Well, the same works as just the opposite. If everyone is driving well, then the person who's not driving well is going to try to make an attempt to drive well. And that's how it is when we communicate. If we are the ones that are, talking ugly, if we're the ones that are being loud, cussing the person out, whatever it is, very likely they're going to do the very same thing back to us. However, if they come at us angry, upset, mad, cussing us out, whatever the situation is, and we continue to stay respectful, if we keep our voices level, if we, stay the course with how we're talking to the person, then 9 times out of 10, they're eventually going to calm down too, because we're not responding the same way that they're responding. So either we can fall into where they are, or they can move up to where we are. And we have that power of influence. It's just a matter of whether or not we allow our emotions to take over what we're feeling and what we're experiencing, and end up, falling into what they're doing. So we have to be strong enough to stay the course and be the positive influence and not the negative influence. So that's where we want to be the example. And that's where that example came from. So get honest, hold yourself accountable for what you need to do, be willing to make the move, and be the example as to how this relationship is going to go. This is how I want this relationship to be. This is how I see you. This is how I see us. And this is where I hope that we can go, set the standards that, hey, if we're going to be in a relationship, this is what I would like to see, but with us. And so I'm going to do my best to maintain that. And hopefully they will too, if they want to stay in a relationship. So let's look at some different scenarios. So I'm going to look at some scenarios tonight. Hey, Nicole King, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome. Doing well on this Super Saturday. Good deal. So we're going to look at some examples tonight. I'm going to bring up some just personal relationship things. And then I'm also going to bring up just some family stuff that can cause us to want to lay blame on each other. So let's look at a couple relationship ones. So let's say that, which one do I want to do here? Let's say there's been a drastic life change, right? We've had some kind of drastic life change in the relationship, whatever it is. You come up with whatever that is for you. And both people are suffering, right? Both people are suffering in the relationship because maybe this drastic life change we didn't want to happen. It could be COVID, right? It could be COVID. Let's just say it is. And one person wants to move on, act like everything is normal. Let's just not even address this. Let's not deal with this. Let's just move on because I don't really want to talk about this, but the other person wants to address it. They want to talk about it. They want to, they need to process what's going on in their mind, and the other person doesn't. So, but either way, both of them want different things. The relationship is struggling regardless, right? The relationship is struggling regardless. So who's at fault? The person who doesn't want to talk about it, or the person who does? They're both blaming each other. We have this issue and I'm trying to talk about it and you don't, and we're at odds with each other. So the first thing we want to do is get honest, right? We want to get honest. So That means that that person who doesn't want to talk about it may need to say, I don't like talking about things that I cannot change, that I can't do anything about. It does me, for me personally, maybe for me personally, it does me no good. Yes, thank you. Please hit that like button if you are here in the chat. So, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. So if you're person number one, you may need to be honest and say, you know what, I don't want to talk about this because I don't like talking about things that I can't change, that I can't do anything about. And then person number two may need to get honest and say, I need to talk about this because I'm having a hard time processing what's going on. I'm having a hard time processing what I'm feeling, and I need to talk about it. So that's number one, get honest. And then the second thing is holding ourselves accountable. Let's see. Nicole says, it seems like both are processing it differently. Yes. There will have to be some kind of compromise, right? There'll have to be some kind of compromise. So we want to hold ourselves accountable. If each person is holding themselves accountable, that one that that doesn't want to talk may have to admit, yes, I am being intentionally distant. I am avoiding you. I am ignoring this situation, or maybe they're even, being mean about it, being ugly about it. Like, I'm tired, being aggressive and saying, hey, I don't want to talk about this. This is ridiculous, or whatever it is they're saying. So, and maybe they're being mean about it. And then the second person may have to hold themselves accountable and say, you know what? I am trying to force this conversation on you when I know you don't want to have this conversation, right? So that's holding ourselves accountable. The second part is make the move. So be honest about what it is that you're willing to do or not do, right? Be honest about it, make the move. But be supportive, figure out, if you're person number one, try to figure out how you can be supportive and say, I want to support you. I realize, I understand that you need to talk about this, but I'm not the person you probably need to talk to, and find somebody else, or help them find someone else that they can talk to about it. This may be a time where they might have to seek a professional, a trusted friend, a spiritual confidant, whoever it is. And then that second person may have to say, okay, I need to talk about this. And maybe you're not the person that I need to talk to about it, but I need to process, through this. Maybe they need to see a counselor, or whatever the situation is, and be willing to do those things to take care of yourself instead of forcing on the other person what you want them to do. Our people that we're in relationship with, they can't always be our everything for us. And I think often when we are in relationship, Vernell says, holding yourself accountable is talking about stuff and coming up with solutions that makes the situation better. Don't try to beat around the bush on the problems, because talking brings solutions. That's so true. For me, it does. For me, when I talk about something, I can talk my way right into a solution. But yet for my husband, he likes to process things. He likes to sit and think quietly. The more he talks about it doesn't necessarily help him to come up with a solution. He likes to sit quietly, think, process things. Hey, the positive pusher, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. I thought I tried to catch you earlier, but I missed your live. I've been decorating all day, so I missed your little announcement that you went live, and so I tried to get on it and realized that I had missed you. So I'm so sorry. Hey, Jazzy TV, how are you? Welcome. We're talking about blame tonight, guys. That blame game, when we are at odds with people and we want to, blame the other person as to why the relationship is not going well. So that's what we're talking about tonight. And we're just going over some different scenarios of what we can do rather than placing blame on the other person. All right. So where was I? We were talking about, let's see, right, holding ourselves accountable. So if you know that you're the one that, might need to go talk to someone, what I was saying is that we may often make the mistake of thinking that our mate is supposed to be our everything, right? They're supposed to be the one that listens to us no matter what, be there for us no matter what. and have all the solutions to our problems, fulfill every need that we have. And it is an expectation that is unfair typically to the other person, because one person can't be our everything. They're not even intended to be our everything. That is why we have so many people in the world, because we all need each other, so we have to be willing and recognize that we may have to look outside of the person that we're in relationship with to get a need fulfilled. Now, I'm not talking about if you're in marriage and you're looking for outside, someone to have those intimate relationships with. Let me be clear. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those, some of those sometimes social or emotional needs that you may have to seek outside assistance for. You may have to seek a good friend, a trusted friend who respects that you are in a relationship, or someone who is a professional, or someone who is, in the word, or some spiritual guidance, a spiritual leader, something on religious leader, something on that level is what I'm talking about. So, but recognize that may have to be the case, and not always get mad at the person that you're in relationship with just because they're unable or not willing to do the thing that you need. Okay. So sometimes we can be unfair in the amount of expectations that we put on the people that we're in relationship with, because they can't always be our everything. So that's one of the scenarios that we may have to look at, not placing blame, where one person may want to say, hey, may want to, lay blame that you're not being there for me. You're not listening to me. You're not letting me, talk this out with you. You're just shoving it under the rug. And we may want to get mad at them, but actually us forcing conversation on them may turn out to be not good for them. And because we don't recognize that may not be something that's good for them, we just want what we want. We get mad and angry about it and fall out. So, talk it out, recognize that you may have to do something different than what you would originally expect to be able to do. So that's just one scenario. Let's look at another one. Let's say here, another relationship one. Hold on. Let's see. Do y'all want to do, I'll let y'all pick. How about that? I'll let y'all pick. No one's talking to each other anymore. So that's one scenario. No one's talking to each other anymore. Or maybe there's an issue of trust. Maybe we have an issue of trust in the relationship. So which one of those y'all want to do? You can type it in the chat and we'll talk about that one. Either the issue of trust or the silence in the relationship when no one's talking anymore. Let's see. Hey, Zaya, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome in. I haven't seen you in a minute. Good to see you. Let's see. Nicole says, when you place blame, it can start an unhealthy cyclical situation that does not result in being able to effectively communicate. Absolutely. Absolutely, it does. No one is talking. Okay, Burns wants to do the no one is talking one. So you've been in a relationship for a minute, whatever, maybe you've been married for a minute, whatever, whatever the situation is. And no one's talking anymore. One says, well, they don't talk about things. They just don't want to talk about things. One of them says, was blaming the other, saying, well, they just don't want to talk about stuff. I try to talk, but they don't want to talk. And the other one says, well, I do try to talk. I would be willing to talk, but you're never around. You're always busy. You're always doing stuff, right? And then when I do talk, nothing changes. There's no, nothing about the situation changes. Everything is still the same. So why bother talking if I feel like it's not going to make a difference, right? Maybe it's something that you've talked about many a times before and nothing about the situation has changed. And so they're just tired of talking about it and have decided to quit talking about it. So you put in your scenario, whatever the situation is, but that's just one that I came up with. So the first thing you want to do is get honest, right? We're doing the same thing. This is the game part, the get honest, the hold myself accountable, the make a move, and the be the example. All right. So get honest. Maybe one person doesn't talk because, like I said, nothing else changes and they feel like it's pointless. Um, and then the other person has to get honest about, I am busy all the time. I do stay busy. Maybe I do need to, spend more time trying to communicate or making myself available to communicate with the person I'm in relationship with. But so those are the things that you need to get honest about. Like, why am I not talking? Well, I'm not talking because I feel like we've talked about this many times before and nothing about it is any different. Okay, so those are the get honest parts. And then hold yourself accountable. So that first person who's not talking may need to say, recognize that a relationship involves two people and that both are required to do something. It's very likely, a lot of times we sit back, we talk about something and we tell the person what we want them to do. And then we sit back and wait for them to do it, thinking that that's going to make all the difference. Well, as soon as you just start doing what I think is going to be take care of what our issue is, then everything will be fine again, right? But not recognizing that there may be something that they do need to do. There may be something that the person can do, rather than just waiting on the other person to make the change, right? Two people often are required to be willing to make a change. It can't just all be on one person. I don't care what it is. There's probably always something that both people can do. And then the second person who's always busy may need to recognize that, me staying busy all the time and avoiding this situation is not helping us. And I may need to figure out, how I can address this issue, how I can address this. So that's holding ourselves accountable, right? I am busy. I'm busy all the time because you're not talking, you're not doing anything, you're living your own life. You don't seem to be concerned about what I'm doing. So I just stay busy doing what I do. Right. So this is why we don't talk anymore. We're both living separate lives. Right. Nicole says that if you, then I, absolutely. Mindset is dangerous in a relationship. You are so right. Yes. It's that if you do this, then I'll do that. And both people are sitting, waiting on each other to make a move and no moves get made. Right. And the relationship is struggling. So there's that next part, make the move. The first person needs to realize that, this is I'm part of this relationship. I'm part of the issue. If I'm in it, I'm part of the issue. And I need to figure out what I need to do. Ask the person, talk to the person and say, hey, we've talked about this. We tried to, make a commit, try to say we were going to do this and that, and nothing happened. We're still struggling with the same issue. Nothing about this has changed. So what is the problem? What do I need to do? Figure out what you're willing to commit to, and then ask the person what they're willing to commit to. Ask them what they're committed and willing to do. And then the other person may need to express what they're feeling. They may say, well, I feel like the blame is always on me. You're always expecting me to make the change. You're always expecting me to figure out what to do. You're always expecting me to, do something different, as if you have to do nothing, right? I'm supposed to do all the changing and you sit back and wait for me to change, and there may be some things that I'm upset with as well. I might would like to see some changes in you as well, or maybe I don't want to change, or I have a hard time changing because even when I do change, you're still the same, right? You're still the same. I change, but nothing changes with you. And so, and that may be frustrating for them. So each person may have to sit down and talk and say, hey, this is what I'm willing to do. I recognize that I'm part of this problem in this way. And this is what I'm committed to doing. And then ask the other person to do the same thing so that you all can get back to talking. Maybe you have to get back to being intentional about being in relationship. Sometimes when you have been dating or married for years on end, you forget how to be in relationship, because you get so busy and independent and living your own life. Hey, Burgundy and Gold fan all day. How are you? I have been avoiding your channel because you know what all's going on with my Cowboys. So I get enough harassment watching your videos. I definitely don't want to be in your lives, but I appreciate you popping in and saying hi. Good to see you. It's good to see you. Vernell says, in any relationship, there needs to be some respect, yes, in the ground for each other. A relationship with your mate, you need to see what they feed off of, as you guys love language and communicate. Absolutely. Yeah. The positive pusher says you get complacent. Yeah, we absolutely get complacent. And it doesn't even take very long to do that. Sometimes you can be, in a relationship, just for a year or two. Let's see, at least once a week, because everyone has a season of growth. Yes, everyone has a season of growth. Burgundy and Gold says, I'm not going to say nothing. Okay. Thank you. So I can get through my life. Yes. Yes, you have every right to say everything. I have nothing to say because y'all are doing y'all's thing. Okay. All right. So yes, at least, yeah, we get complacent in our relationships, and we have to sometimes learn how to get back to being in relationship with each other. Because it requires two people, and we can't get tired of saying, well, I'm always the one, right? But those are the things we say. I'm always the one that is, coming to the person, attempting to make the change. And I'm tired. I want them to do it. Well, we may be waiting forever. And in the meantime, we're losing life. We're losing life in the relationship. So do you want to lose life? Do you want days, weeks, months, years to go by where you all could be, working through the issues and, having a healthy, marriage, a healthy relationship with each other? Or are you just going to sit back and wait for the other person to do until it is no more? All of a sudden you fall apart. You are, you go your separate ways. You're on two different paths, and you no longer know each other anymore. You no longer know each other. Yes, we got to get my channel to 1K. Thank you. Yes, I'm working on it. I try to get on here as often as I can. I was, trying to think about some different things I could do for next month to try to grow my subscribers and stuff. But I'm a busy woman. I'm married. I have 2 little ones at home, and so I try to come on as often as I can, give y'all quality stuff, and it is what it is. It grows at the rate that it grows. So, but I'm appreciative. I'm happy for where I am now. It's just been awesome. It's been awesome. So I'm here for you all. I'm not here for YouTube. So however it grows is how it grows. But I'm thankful for each and every one of y'all being in here. I truly am. Nicole says, it's not easy, but our prayer has to be for the Lord to show us areas where we need to change. Yes. As opposed to the others. Yes. Human nature is sometimes to see the flaws in others quicker than we do ourselves. Absolutely. And we are all guilty of that. We are all guilty of, pointing out, the flaws in others, because it's easier. We're looking at them. It's easier to look at somebody else's. And it keeps us busy from having to focus on the things that we need to change, because change is not easy. Change isn't easy for ourselves. Anytime we're trying to do something different than what we're comfortable with, or just different from what we normally do, it can be hard to stick to. Trying to lose weight, trying to, develop a healthy habit. Trying to be present with your family, spend more time, just trying to get away from social media, watching too much TV, or being in your phone too much. All those things are difficult to change. And nobody likes to change. If we could, and life is hard. Life is difficult because we have so much to do always. And it seems like the things that we have to do never stops. It just goes from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And so we get tired, we get complacent, we get frustrated, we get lazy. We find excuses for everything as to why we're just not going to do it. And we just end up not doing it. Often we'll let our relationships go before we let other things go that we need to be letting go, or we'll work on other things rather than working on our relationship or working on our communication. And that's sad, because our family is our first ministry. Our family, our relationships are more important than anything else going out in the world. And if you are saved, our family at home, that's where our focus should always be. We shouldn't be out ministering to others, preaching to others, talking to other people about different things they need to do, helping other people, here, there, and everywhere. And our homes are suffering. Our relationships are suffering. Our marriages are suffering. Our relationships with our families, our kids, our, loved ones, they're suffering. And yet we're out in the world doing amazing things for other people. And we don't take care of our own homes, our own relationships. And that should not be. And that's not what God wants for us. And so that is why I'm here, because I want us to, focus on our relationship, for us to get back to focusing on our relationships. We are so distracted in the world with so many things. We get distracted because everything is in our face all the time. We have the whole world at our fingertips, right in our phone. And so it's just easier to focus on, something else other than our relationships. And we take for granted that the people in our lives are always going to be there. People we're married to, people who are just related to us. And when people up and die, or when people up and leave, we act surprised. Like, we don't know why. We don't know what happened. We can't figure out where things went wrong, because we weren't paying attention the whole time. We weren't present. We were out in the world elsewhere doing other things and, paying attention to other stuff. And so, we have to get back to bringing focus on our relationships and on our communication, so that we can keep that healthy. Because honestly, when things are good at home, everything else is icing on the cake, really, But when things are bad at home, it's like a a virus. It's like dealing with a virus in your system. It's hard to function out in the world and do all the things that we need to do, because we're struggling within. Hey, Kevin Harvick, fan 04. Who is this chick? I am Ruth Finney. Welcome. Good to see you. You can talk your way to healthy relationships. That's my channel. So welcome in. We talk about how to, work on your communication better, and how to, improve the communication in your relationship. So if that's something you're interested in, stick around with us. We'll be here for another 15 minutes or so. And, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and check out my stuff and see what you might be interested in. All right, so that is those are some family. So let's look at some family stuff. Let's look at some family issues that we often have. I'll let y'all choose these two. I came up with different ones, not knowing what y'all might be interested in. So let's see. Do we want to talk about in-laws? How we want to do an in-law one, money issue, or just family that's falling out with each other? I want to do family that's falling out with each other, a money issue, or in-laws. Any of those sound interesting to you? We can kind of chat about those. Let's see here. Yes, family. Family. Okay, Burns. Thank you. All right, so yeah, we're going to talk about family. The family that's fallen out. Okay, and then Positive wants to do money. Okay, so we'll squeeze in both of those. The family that's fallen out. Right. So let's say we have a family member, and I'm just coming up with a scenario. If y'all have something different, or just type it in the chat, let me know. I'm open. So let's say we have a family member, they haven't talked in years. Maybe they said something that offended you, and they didn't apologize for it. And the other one says, well, I don't feel that I should have to apologize because I just spoke the truth. I spoke the truth and you didn't like it. And I can't help that you didn't like it, but what I said was true. So I don't feel any need to apologize, right? So that's the scenario that I came up with. So what do we do, right? What do we do? The relationship is suffering. We're no longer talking. One is waiting on the apology, while the other one thinks that no apology is deserved. I'm good, right? I said what I needed to say. You had a problem with it. So be it. Right. So let's get honest. The first thing we want to do is get honest. Both may want to make peace, right? It's like we're family. I want to be at peace with you. But we both have excuses as to why not. Well, you just need to get over what I said because I spoke the truth, and the other one may say, well, I don't care that you spoke the truth. You offended me. You said it in a way that was, offensive. And I didn't take kindly to how you said it. So we got to hold ourselves accountable. We have to hold, and maybe years have gone by, or maybe just a little bit of time has gone by. It doesn't matter. But we may need to get some clarification. Either way, we need to sit down and have a talk about it. So we need to hold ourselves accountable. Recognize that each person may be at fault. Recognize that each person has a role in getting this relationship back to where each person is talking. Recognize each person's fault and not use the other person as an excuse. Chicano Azteca, how are you? If people weren't so sensitive, the truth wouldn't be an issue, harsh or not. You have a point, but really, it's hard to say. I mean, what's so sensitive? What is so sensitive? Hey, Paul, how are you? Good to see you. We think that sometimes we think that what we're saying and how we said stuff is perfectly fine. They're just being too sensitive, right? But it could be that they're not so sensitive. We really could have been being a bit rude. We really could be a bit ugly about how we say things. Sometimes depending on how we grew up in family, how our cultures, different things such as that, people can take offense to how things, if you grew up, say in an Italian household or a Black household or, up in a New York household, something like that, where people talk aggressive, they're straightforward, they're upfront, they don't, bite their tongues or hold their words or hold back on how they feel about it. Maybe they talk loudly. And you're talking to someone who grew up in a quiet household where people, didn't talk that way. They were maybe in your family, they do a lot of, cussing and, different, or saying things, talking about people, whatever, and that's just the norm for your family, then you may not be as sensitive to certain things. But if you're talking to someone who grew up in a different kind of a household, a different kind of a culture where, you speak respectfully, you don't yell at people, you don't call people out of their names or different things such as that, then of course, those two people are obviously going to think, they're going to conflict, they're going to think, well, you're just being too sensitive. you shouldn't have an issue with how I'm talking to you, when that just may not be so. Let's see, telling me I was being or whatever, I would ask why they say that and hear them out, right? And that's exactly what you want to do. You want to hear them out. You want to hear the person out. You have to be willing to ask, right? To be willing to say, hey, you seem like you're offended by something I said, or look, maybe I rubbed you the wrong way. You're not talking to me anymore. I feel this tension between us. So let me know, what did I say to you, or how could I have said it differently? What I find to be most effective is when if you ask them, how could I have said that differently that you would have received it better? And then that way, you don't have to worry if you don't have to wonder about how it is you could have said it differently, because they'll let you know, like, hey, well, I would have appreciated if you had said it to me this way, or if you had come at me this way. Either way, and then I would have received it better. I would have understood what you were trying to express to me. So I find that to be a better way to, find out what the issue is, versus just assuming that that they're just too sensitive and they need to get over it. So that's just my thought. Let's see. If you're not willing to hear someone out and build on that, you're just building up resentment. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Hey, sincerely yours, Nadia. How are you? Welcome. Welcome. All right. So that's holding yourself accountable, and that's that A part of that holding yourself accountable, that I, may have said something that offended you. And even though I think that I was perfectly fine in what I said, help me understand what it is exactly that I said that offended you, and how could I have said it differently? And then, so that's part of holding that account. Some people are too egotistical to admit that they're wrong and went overboard. Absolutely, they do. Absolutely. Nicole says, that's a good way of putting it, Ruth, by asking, how could I have said that differently? Yeah, absolutely. So then you get clarification. That's how you learn. Like, we are the ones that need to express to people how we like to be treated and how we like to be talked to. I have no problem. Hey, Life with Susie Q, good to see you. I have no problem if somebody comes at me offensively and says something that I don't particularly appreciate. I will let them know. We need not always wait. You don't always have to wait for somebody to realize that they've offended you, because they may never realize that they offended you. So I'll say, hey, I realize that you're trying to express this to me, but I might will receive it better if you come at me like this, or said something like this to me, rather than how you did that. So I'll go ahead and let people know up front, like, hey, this is a better way to say that, or this is more effective for me. If you want me to listen, if you want to have my attention, if you want me to have good understanding, because you're going to shut me off if you come at me, this way or that way. And I realize that you want me to hear what you have to say and understand what it is you're trying to express to me. And I want us to have this conversation, because we might need to have this conversation. So this is what's effective for me, and I'll tell people is, hey, just say this to me. Tell me this. I need, whatever it is, whatever the situation is, I'll go ahead and express it. I don't get mad. And if they're unwilling to do that, well, then we have another issue we may need to talk about, but yeah, you have to be willing to put that ego aside. You have to be willing to advocate for yourself, and not wait for people and to just know how you like to be talked to, and not expect for people to just know. Even the people we live with, even our spouses. When my husband and I first got married, we had to learn how to communicate with each other. We had been friends for many, many years, and known each other for many years. But when you get married and you live in the same house and different stuff, it can be a different situation. We grew up in different families and different households, and, very different from each other. And even though we have a lot in common, when you live with a person and you're residing in that same space together, you find all these little nuances that it's like, oh, I didn't know you did this, or talked like this, or said that, or, those little. So we spent the first 1-2 years of our marriage learning how to communicate with each other. Like, because I would say things that would shut him down, and he would say things that would shut me down, and we'd be mad for a week. Right? Nobody's talking to each other. and we're losing out. And it was ridiculous. It would be like, oh my, I want to be in good relationship with you. I don't want to be arguing with you, but I don't know what to say, so we had to get to that space where we had to learn how to talk to each other. Like, this is not effective for me. This doesn't work for me. And you have to be willing to tell the person, and the other person has to be willing to receive it. But I find that if you let people know up front, I want to be in good relationship with you. I want us to be able to talk about, good things, happy things, wonderful things, but I can't talk about those things if we don't address this over here. I can't pretend like we're happy and everything is good when I'm struggling over here with how you communicate with me in this area. Right. So be willing to accept what what the issue is, talk about it, and give some advice to the other person about what you like, what you don't like, what works, what doesn't work, what's effective, what's not effective, all that. Be willing to talk about it. Don't just sit and expect the person to know. Too many times I see in relationships that people are struggling because they just expect, well, they should just know. Well, if they love me, they would do this, or if she cared about me, then she would understand how I felt about this, and that's just wrong. People don't know. They don't know that you feel the way you do about it, or that you're as passionate about it as you are, that it affects you as deeply as it does, because they're not you. They're not in your skin. They don't see things the way you see it. They don't understand things always and take things the way you take it. And so we have to be willing to express that. The positive pusher says, yes, letting the other person know when you said this to me, it made me feel this way. Communication is key. Absolutely. We can't expect people to be mind readers. Yeah. And I think often because we are in relationship with people, because they're family, or because they're a good friend, or because we are, lovers, then they should know. You should know not to offend me in that way. You know me, right? You've seen me do this. You've seen people don't pay attention. Sometimes we have to do things over and over again, or it's not that they're not paying attention. They get complacent, or they don't value, they have a different value about a matter than you do, right? You may be adamant about certain things that they don't think is all that important, so they're not going to adjust, how they feel about it based on, things may not just be adjusted because you're waiting for them to feel as important about it as you do. They may not, they may never, they may never feel as important, as have the same value of an issue as you do. And so you have to just keep, reminding them, hey, this is what's happening. And it happens in marriage where we talk about something, we make a commitment to do something, we do it for a little while, and then after a while it starts to slack off, right? And then we may talk about it again, we may fix it for a little while, and then it starts to slack off. So, and then we just quit, do anything about it and say, "Ugh, they're never going to change, they're never going to do anything different than what I want them to do." When in actuality, we may just need to work on helping the person understand the value that we place on that thing. So for instance, we may talk about what we're going to do different, but a lot of times if we don't understand the why it's important to the person, why is it important? Like, what does this do to you when I don't do this? So when we talk about the why and try to get to where we can understand that person's value that they place on a matter, then it changes the behavior a little more than just saying, okay, we've talked about this, we've said we're going to do these things, and then I may do it for a little while, I may not. But if I know that when I don't do these things, or when I do these things, it makes you feel this way, and it causes you to treat me this way, then that brings another level of awareness to, what I'm willing to do and for how long I'm willing to do that, right? I hope that makes sense. Nicole says, how do you recommend responding to the following? You notice a different dynamic with a friend. You ask if you did something to offend them, and they say, trust me, if something was wrong, I'll come to you. Okay. I think that's pretty straightforward. A lot of times people are dealing with things, it could be that they are having an issue with you, but if they're not ready to talk about it, that's an answer. That's an answer I would absolutely give, because we assume sometimes that people are upset with us and it may not be about us. Or it could be that they are upset with us, but they haven't processed in their mind yet how they want to talk about it, but they don't want the relationship to be affected. So either scenario, you have to wait on them. You have to wait for them and just say, okay, well, if there is, just know that I'm open to hearing what you have to say. If anything is going on, please know that I'm here for you. If there is something that I've done to you, please know that I'm open to receiving whatever it is that whatever I may have done that may be offensive, have offended you, or if I've upset you in any way, and leave it at that. Move on with the relationship as you always have. Because, just because someone is dealing with something, we can't always assume that it's us. Check. I think what you did was, I think if it was you and you're the person that said, hey, is everything okay? I'm noticing things are different between us, or I noticed this dynamic between these two people are different. Is everything going on? I think it's always good to check, give them opportunity, but whatever they say, take it as it is, take it as it is. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, that was a good way to respond. Okay, good. I'm glad that was helpful. And then the money one real quick, because Positive wanted to do the money one. The money issue is one that I've actually kind of talked about before, where we have lent money to people and they did not pay it back. And we are upset, and the other person may be, upset because they're saying, I am paying you back when I can, I'm just not paying you back as fast as you wanted. And so you're upset, right? So that, that I'll just let that be the money issue. One person lent some money out and maybe they wanted it back sooner than what the other person is paying. And so they're mad about it. And now because the other person is not giving it back and they're not getting it as fast as they want it, and they're tired of hearing their mouth about it, they may be taking their time about giving it back. So or may not even intend to give it back anymore because, the other person got mad about it. People are funny that way, right? They do all that. I have glitter all over my face, y'all. I've been doing Christmas stuff all day. I keep seeing my face with glitter all over it. But anyway, so that's the money issue. First, we want to get honest. Maybe the person who lent the money is upset because they really weren't in the position to give the money out from the jump, or it was money that they needed back. If you know that you have money that you don't need to give out, or that you know that you need it back, my recommendation is always not to lend it. Never lend out money that you know you need back. Always lend money that you know you can afford to never get back. So that's just my rule of thumb. And it never hurts to set up boundaries around money, around family, around, personal spousal relationships, whatever. Be willing to, set up boundaries. So get honest that maybe you didn't want to lend it back. Maybe the second person may need to be honest that, yeah, I borrowed the money and I knew I wouldn't really be able to give it back anytime soon. Right. So that's getting honest. The second one is hold yourself accountable. It could be that you gave that money because you're an enabler and you had a hard time saying no. You have a hard time saying no to people. Maybe you're a people pleaser. Like, I don't want them to be mad at me, or I don't want them to think any kind of way about me. So I lent the money. The second person may need to hold themselves accountable and say, I am a little bit too dependent. I did take them for granted. I did take for granted that they're doing better off than me. And I figured they had the money to lend me. So I borrowed it, and knowing I may or may not give it back. Maybe I had intention of giving it back, but, it wasn't a priority for me. So that's holding ourselves accountable. Vernell says, my way of looking at that money is to, if somebody asks, if somebody to lend me some money and you give it to them, take it as a loss. If you get it back, it's a blessing. That's right. I mean, that's the truth. That's how I look at it too. I give it out. Once I give it, it's gone. If you give it back, then great. I'm happy you did, because that's what we talked about. Maybe that's what we talked about. But if not, I'm still good because I didn't give more than what I was not comfortable with giving. So here's the make the move part of that money issue, right? We may need to set up some boundaries. So if you are the person who lent the money, you may need to say, I'm going to lend you this money under these conditions. I need you to, tell me when it is you'll be able to pay it back. Tell me what schedule. If you need a schedule, is it going to come back all at once? Is it going to come back in increments? However you want to do it, set up a payment plan, whatever, let me know. So you may need to set up some boundaries around the money and state what your expectations are up front, rather than just giving money and waiting to see if you're ever going to get it back. right? Now, in your mind, you know that you don't need it back because you only gave what you could afford to lose, but they don't necessarily have to know that, right? They, you may want, if they want to give it back and they want to be responsible because they are borrowing it, and that's another thing you want to get clear. Are you, people will come to you and say, can I borrow this money? And to me, borrowing means borrowing. That means that you're going to give it back. But if I say, can you give me a donation, right? Or can you just give me some money? I'm not going to be able to pay it back. Then that needs to be clarified upfront as well, because I've learned over the years that people use that term borrowing as, donation, not necessarily borrowing. So yeah, be clear in, what it is you're doing. Hey, Eve, how are you? Welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you. So yeah, get that clear up front, and then, set up the boundaries. If you're paying it back, how are we going to do this? And let the borrower set up the payment arrangements, if it's going to be a payment arrangement, or tell them what day that they're going to pay it back. Let the borrower do that. And you agree with whatever they say. So, and then, be the example is do what you were comfortable with, and do what you can be at peace with yourself. And if they don't pay it back, don't chastise them about it, or don't get into bad relationship with them just because they didn't, because remember, we only gave out what we, were willing to lose up front. So we don't really have to treat them any kind of way differently about it just because they didn't pay it back. And if they do pay it back, then, a feather in their cap. You can borrow money from me anytime, because I know that you are good for your word. Your word has integrity, and I don't mind lending you money. Right. So, that's my thought on money. If there's something else that you all have around the money, or another question around the money, then let me know. The positive pusher says, I remember you Get Over Money Matters. Yes, series. Those videos are great resources available on your channel for further information about the money matters. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, Positive. Well, guys, it is 9:30 here on my time. It may be 10:30, 8:30, or 7:30, wherever you are. But I've been here for an hour, and I try to, commit to the time that I say that I'm going to do. Vernell says, also in the Bible, it says, don't pass your pearls on to the swine, meaning if the person is not a Christian, don't give them any money, because if you're a Christian, you would give it back. Okay. I've not heard that perspective before. We only lend money to Christians. Is that what you're saying? You only lend money to Christians? Christians don't give it back. You will be convicted by God. Okay. I do have glitter. Do you have glitter? I do have glitter on my face. Not intentionally. I just been doing Christmas stuff all day, and I have glitter all over my house. And so I tried to wash my face, but I still have glitter all over my face. So it is. It's 10:30 where you are, Levi. Okay. Thank you so much. Y'all are on the East Coast then. Some Christians don't give it back either. They don't. They absolutely don't. I know plenty of people who are saved and don't do right. We're all born in sin, shaping in iniquity. And, whether you're saved or not does not mean that you will not sin, because I know plenty of Christians who sin every day, including me myself. Not every day, but I know that I'm capable of committing sin. And so I have to check myself always and make sure that I repent repent of the things that I do. All right. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you so much. I'm glad you all came to listen to me on a Saturday night. Man, y'all kind of gave me some energy. So I'm kind of glad. I was really tired. So talking to you all gave me some energy back. So thank you all for this. So y'all helped me as much as I hope I helped you. So I'm gonna say a quick prayer, and then we're gonna head out. Tomorrow's my birthday. Actually, I'm gonna be 45 tomorrow. Yes, I'm moving on up. So yes, tomorrow's my birthday. I may or may not come on. I don't really know. We'll just kind of see what's in store for tomorrow. I don't really know. I won't promise you that I will, but I will definitely be here on Monday morning. I do my classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from at 5 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I know that's really early for some of you, but I appreciate any of you who can come. If not, catch the replay. On Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll put out tips and lessons, and I'll be back here on Saturday for my Talk to Ruth live sessions. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the happy birthday wishes. I appreciate you all so much. And for those of you all, I don't know if you know, if you've on I Am Content's channel, she's done this whole YouTube Love Awards, and I was nominated for a couple of awards she has over there. And I was just so honored and grateful. I think they've already done the early voting, which I totally didn't announce to people because I didn't realize that. But if I'm still on there on the 11th, they're going to do some voting again. So please, and there's several, awesome people in here who are also nominated. So if you all want to go over and nominate me for anything, I'm greatly appreciative. If not, either way, I'm happy to have even been thought about. All right. Hey, Kiki, how are you, sister? Yes, 45 years. Yes. Oh, my goodness. Tomorrow's my birthday on the 6th. Yes. All right. I'm going to say a quick prayer. Father, thank you, Lord, for this day. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for the blessings that you bestowed upon us that we do not deserve. You continually show us grace and mercy. Thank you for holding us accountable, for our sins, for the iniquities that we commit against you and commit against each other. But Lord, we don't want to be that person that lays blame on others, allowing them to be the issue for the reason why we don't do the things that you've called us to do. Lord, we want to be obedient to your word regardless of what's going on around us. So help us to be who we need to be, say the things we need to say, be confident and courteous and kind in our words so that we're not offending others. Father, help us to be mindful of our relationships and how we treat our relationships, that our relations, those people close to us, are the most important to us. And we need to they're our first ministry. So help us to love on them the most and stay in good relations with them first before we even think about those outside of our immediate families and friends and those who we love and care about. So, just teach us. Thank you for being an example, for being that example of what we need to do and how we need to be, where we need to keep our focus on. And help us to remember that you are ultimately the one that we need to please. We need not be worried about, whether others, how they respond and whether they will or will not accept the things that we say, as long as we keep you happy and keep you pleased. So thank you, Lord, for who you are, and just help us to get out of our stubbornness and not lay the blame, and to be willing to step forward and do the things that we're called to do. Help us to be the example, to be that light that we're called to be in this world, so that we will move others towards loving you, ultimately loving you, Lord. We are the example of who you are. So let us shine that light as we should when we are dealing with others. Bless everyone in this chat, those watching the replay, and just continue to move in our lives and work on our mouths and keep our hearts and our ears close to you. We love you. We thank you. These things I ask in your son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. I will see you all on Monday. If not tomorrow, I may pop on tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye. Have a good one.